not really known for my public speaking. I'm a man of as you know, I'm a man of very few words. Yeah, when, I know. But I get more emotional the older I get. To see a room filled like this is amazing to me. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Okay, so I did prepare some things so I wouldn't be up here all night. Good evening. Welcome to the 60th anniversary and Hall of Fame celebration. I like having these two together. I think this is outstanding. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you all had an opportunity to visit the Abrams Communications Center, of which we are heavily, heavily thankful for the Abrams family and the Abrams Communications Center. I'd like this microphone not to hum like that, but okay. I definitely have to acknowledge some people with us here tonight. First, of course, Marjorie and Cynthia from the Abrams family. Dr. Klein, who just left, but we appreciate the fact that Dr. Klein was here tonight. Thank you very much. From LIU Development, my right hand and best friend, when it comes to getting things done with the radio station, Joan Yonke, who's sitting over there. And our first speaker of the night, who I'd like to come up and do a welcome and welcome you all here, is the Vice President for Advancement, Kerry Kruckel. Kerry.
Thank you, Dan. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. I had one short set of remarks prepared, and then I heard the president talk, and some of us standing in the corner now know that I have a new job, which is to make sure that this program is on par with the Newhouse program up at Syracuse University. So thank you, Fred, and Dan. I will have some job security because we've got more building to do. But the other more important thing is just to acknowledge what's been happening here in this program. So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to this year's inductees. Jeannie Moon, I know I met you earlier. Hey there. And Jeannie White. Laurie White. Hi, Laurie. I saw you earlier. And congratulations to the Abrams family, Benjamin Abrams, and all of his beautiful daughters, two of whom are here tonight. Granddaughters, great-granddaughters, and sons-in-laws and grandsons-in-laws. So it's really amazing. And sons. And it's really a wonderful pleasure to celebrate all of you tonight. But I also want to say thank you, because as you know, at a university, there are many jewels that make up the crown of a university, but they have to check boxes. And at a university, we don't get to decide how those boxes get filled. We can have a lot of plans, and we can do a lot of strategic visioning, but the students make the choice in coming here. We have to have great academic programs, we have to have great facilities, and we have to have great culture. And this radio station checks every single one of those boxes. With pride, I'd say it's the jewel in the crown at LIU. There are other important jewels, but I know from the alumni that have come through this program, the students who are here, and the interest of the students is on an uptick again, because we have not just a great academic program that's really now taking into account a lot of all the other media opportunities that are happening in industry and technologies, but the facilities are par none downstate. Par none, thanks to Marjorie Hyman, thanks to Geraldine Corey, and thanks to their sister, Cynthia Hochman, who's getting more involved, and we just appreciate all of you supporting the vision that your father had. Because 6 years later, look what he has helped build. These things don't happen overnight at universities. It takes 4 years for a student to go through the program. So thank you to all of you. Thank you for helping us check all these boxes. But all of you in this room are making this happen for the students. So the fact that the student interest is up is because they want to connect with you. They can sit in a lot of classrooms and take in a lot of academic learning. But when they see how you propelled yourself through your careers and learn from you firsthand, then they know what they're going to do. It's not always a direct line in media, but it informs their choices. So thank you on behalf of the university. Thank you for letting me be here tonight. Have a great night, and congrats again to the inductees. Thank you.
Okay. see if this is any better. Okay, so we're going to go with a handheld tonight, or maybe it'll hear me from here. I'm going to do a little change in the program tonight because I know my friend Cindy, who I appreciate being here tonight, has another event to do. Our congressional representative is Tom Suozzi. Now, whether you like him or not, he is our congressman. I like him very much. He's my neighbor. I got the privilege of coaching his major league. He was in the Mets organization, I believe, his son in Little League. And he couldn't be here tonight, but Cindy is here on his behalf. So Cindy, could you? I'm going to use this little one. Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Thomas apologizes that he wasn't able to be here tonight. He had longstanding obligations out of town, but student radio is very important. I know my son went to, where did he go to school? Stevens over and he had an hour-long program every week on the radio, and it really made his college experience that much richer, and he really enjoyed it. So congratulations on your 60th anniversary. And Tom asked me to bring this citation and present it to you on behalf of this occasion.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Okay.
I'll try my best.
Okay,
Please.
and all the best.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Cindy, and my best to Tom. That means we're going to go back to where we were supposed to be, which means eating. All right? So I invite all of you to begin your adventure in culinary delights and have a good meal. And we'll pick it up when about halfway through the meal, we'll pick up the next part of the program. All right? Thank you. Eat. Okay. Hello. All right, I'll just stand here. Hello, everybody. Are you enjoying your meal? Okay. Would you like me not to start the program? If I can have your attention, please. There'll be plenty of time to chat, drink, and be merry. We have things to do here tonight that are really, really important, at least to me, anyhow. But I want to share some things with you guys once we get started on the 60th anniversary. First, a correction in your program. I got the inductors backwards on Laurie and Jeannie, but they're the same people, so I don't think I didn't miss too far. Not Jeannie and Laurie. Never mind. So we'll begin the 60th anniversary celebration of WCWP, but no celebration of this station would be complete without mentioning Art Beltrone. Art couldn't make it. All right, please. As you know, Art lives in Virginia or the Carolinas. Virginia, right? And he called me. He was not happy that he couldn't make it, but his health is not the best. But he was the catalyst for the founding of the AM carrier current station in 1961, which started this entire ball rolling. He did send me a note that he'd like me to share, because Art likes to write. Art's a writer. I love that about him. Art had previous experience before coming to CW Post, which is what it was called then. He was at Sewanaka High School. Sewanaka High School had a radio station. It's one of the early ones that had a radio station. And he was given a pin when he graduated in 1959 before he came to Post. And he says in his letter, the microphone pin was given to me for my 4 years participating in the broadcast at WSHS, starting with my freshman year and ending in 1959. During that time, I had a music program, I broadcast sports, news. During one sports program, I had an opportunity to interview the famous football running back, Jim Brown. This is a teenager who played for the Cleveland Browns and retired in 1966. And we all know him as a great actor after that. Because of my love in radio, Art says, when I entered CW Post College as a member of the class of 1963, I immediately asked where the radio station was located so I could continue my interest in broadcasting. I was told there was no station and went immediately to see the Dean of Students, Frederick S. DeMar. This guy goes right to the top. I like that. With an idea to start one. My visit convinced him for students to try and establish a station, and he provided, this is in $61 here, people, $250 to get started. Other students became interested and took the first step to the creation of the carrying current station, which eventually led to LIU-FM's post station, WCWP. So we owe a bit of gratitude to our friend Art Beltrone, who couldn't be with us here tonight. So I've got a video I need to show. While I love the history of WCWP, and it's a storied one, it's marred with all kinds of really cool things that happened. The shutdown, the reopening, Bill Moser. I mean, come on. It's been a storied history, okay? And I miss Bill. I just want to go on record as saying I miss Bill. I haven't spoken to him in a while, and I hope he's doing well. I hoped he would have been here tonight. But I have a video I want to show. It's actually two videos. One is from one of the founders of the FM station who followed in Art's footsteps. We all know him as Hank Neimark, who also couldn't be here today because he has severe sciatica and he didn't want to take the drive down. He normally would, and Jeff can tell you, for the 50th he was here. He comes down because he likes to recreate his famous opening that he did at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on March 16th, 1965. So I'm going to play the video for you now, and he can explain. And he points out something that I want to point out, but he beat me to it, about the importance of another man who is part of this, and you'll see.
Hi, everybody, and congratulations. I was just musing today about WCWP going on the air, first in 1961 as the low-power carrier current station, which if you were lucky, you could tune it in. And the 4 short years, although being a young man at the time, 4 short years sure seemed like an eternity. But that 4 years until we launched FM. It's interesting to note that when WCWP first went on the air, commercial radio broadcasting was only 40 years old. Now WCWP is 60 years old, WCWP-FM. So for those nerds like me who'd like to think about those things, it's just an interesting factoid. I'm happy to be here. Congratulations, everybody. I'm so sorry. I'm happy to be here. Let's put it that way. I'm certainly not happy to not be there with you right now at this momentous time. I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time to take the helm of the station as Art Beltrone moved on to graduation, and it was up to me to carry the station as a student from the carrier current to FM. As most of you know, I had a rather successful career in television production, and I've had an amazing life. As with so many others, WCWP was the springboard to that career. With all the plaudits, with all the awards, the travel, the chance to meet and directly work with so many luminaries and celebrities. I believe that in terms of what life has presented to me, the creation of WCWP-FM, along with, of course, raising my children, it stands as the most monumental undertaking of my life. The many, perhaps thousands of careers, relationships, friendships it has spawned due to my work and the leadership of Herb Costin is truly, as far as I'm concerned, monumental. I need to address to this gathering the remarkable contribution of Dr. Herb Costin. I don't want his legacy to be lost as the story of WCWP gets told and retold through the years. It was Costin who first contacted Benjamin Abrams. It was Costin who got local businesses to donate raw materials, brick, mortar, wiring, plumbing supplies, architect. It was Herb who got Senator Keating on board and fast-tracked the application for the license. It was Herb Costin who worked with the FCC. It was Herb who interfaced with the broadcast engineers, who did the studies, who imbued us, the students, with a sense of purpose, and who was wise enough to let us do the programming, to run the station day to day, who made it possible for so many to gain the experience to go out into the world and build successful careers, not only in broadcasting, but in related fields: journalism, film, theater, public, motivational speaking, writing. I could go on. It was not an academic course. It was an extracurricular activity. As things go, it was no different in terms of academic degree than the archery club was. But yet Herb understood, as the college didn't at the time, what it really stood for as far as people going out into the world and actually commencement, the beginning, to be able to go out into the world and use what they learned at WCWP to build careers and build lives for themselves. So please, Herb, rest in peace. It's you who made all this possible. Thank you very much. Once again, congratulations to everybody at WCWP-FM. Happy 60th. I'll probably be around for the 70th. I don't know. After that, Providence only knows. At any rate, congratulations, everybody. Happy birthday, WCWP-FM.
We received another video message recently from one of our snowbirds who likes to hang out in Florida.
Hey everybody, all you WCWP alums, you fellow Hall of Famers, and anybody and everybody who's ever crossed the threshold of our station. It is a pleasure to join you on the 60th anniversary of this radio station. It's hard to believe that I came in when the station was just 3 years old, so that's 57 years ago. And through all that time, the station has always endeavored to produce the finest in the broadcast business, and it has. People from this station, as you know, have been placed in all kinds of places, all the networks, a bunch of local stations, and it has been fantastic. Of course, none of this would have happened without the generosity of the Abrams family, and that generosity has continued. It started by the very construction of the Benjamin Abrams Communications Center 60 years ago, or plus or minus. But it has continued in order to provide the beautiful facility we have now. So anyway, I can't make it because I'm down here in Florida keeping my suntan going, but I did not want to leave without saying hello, congratulations, and happy 60th anniversary to all.
Tomorrow is the actual date of the anniversary. And we will be on the air at 3 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock, Hank will be online to recreate his opening words at WCWP from 1965. And everyone in this room is invited to come down to the station during that time. Jeff's going to be on the air and try to get everyone on the air talking. And I've already warned Chris McIntosh, who's right over here, his show may be delayed. Okay? Actually, if you could preempt it, that would be... No, I'm just kidding. The 60th anniversary is really important, and I have lots to say about it, but I'll do that at the end of the proceedings tonight, because right now I think we should get to our Hall of Fame inductees. I'm going to start with... Now, help me here, Dan and Fred. Who is inducting Jeannie? You are. I thought Danny. I thought it was you. Okay. Anyway, our first inductee is a beautiful person, is how I put it. When I was a student, and Jeannie will remember this, I was an arrogant prick. I came in, I came in and I said, first thing I said to Bill Moser is, your station stinks, I'm going to fix it. He said, good luck. I said, just give me time. And by February, I started in September, by February, Rock and Roll Weekend was on the air and would become, come on, admit it, Suzanne, the most popular format in the history of the station.
It was.
Then and now.
And you remind us of this every time.
Yes, and I remind you every single time. But, unfortunately, as was said already tonight, as hers. I was in the right place at the right time. Lightning struck, and in 2001, when they said, Dan, do you want to become the director of the radio station? I said, I hope you don't think I'm going to strike lightning again, because that's not happening. Have you heard of the internet? So it's been a wild ride, and I've been associated with this university since I'm 19 years old. All right, except for 2 years when I left. I came back as an adjunct 2 years after I graduated. It has been my home. That building has been my home. And like a building that you love and you cherish and you may have grown up in, every once in a while you need to pull the rug out, clean it up, and make it new. And that was been my dream for 25 years. And, it's been said that as we grow older, we sometimes, especially if we're going to retire, lose our sense of purpose, to use a friend's words. And I really thought I was there in 2022. But this family came along and renewed my purpose. And I love that building more than even my own home. My own home needs a complete renovation. And I owe this family a great debt because they renewed my purpose. And I'm happy to be back. I love being here. And I really love Jeannie Moon. And Jeannie Moon is going to be inducted into the WCWP Hall of Fame by Dan Reagan. Danny?
Thanks, Dan. You're correct. It's a great honor to induct a beautiful person, an extremely talented and creative person. Jeannie was a significant contributor to the growth of WCWP in the early 1980s. She mainly focused on sports coverage both on air and behind the scenes, where she was a leader in the production studio, creating quick highlight reels for post-game shows. She produced football games. She hosted the weekly sports talk show Sports Chatter, which by then had become a call-in show, and that presents its own set of challenges. She did color commentary from men's basketball games and did numerous interviews with professional sports figures, including many New York Islanders. She was also active with the station's news and PR departments. Jeannie was also known for taking new members under her wing and instilling the ideas of good writing and research to make a better broadcast. This desire to help people become proficient wordsmiths gave us all a little glimpse of what would become a remarkable dual-track career of writing and teaching. Jeannie's degrees include an MS in English education and a BA in communications from Post, LIU Post. She also has a master in library science from St. John's and a certificate in editing and publishing from UCLA. At this point, I wouldn't blame you if you're thinking it sounds like she should have a PhD in multitasking. But wait, I'm just getting started. There's an expression that goes, everyone has a book inside of them. It's actually a quote attributed to American journalist Christopher Hitchens. And the rest of that quote is, which is exactly where in most cases I think it should remain. If I had known that the full extent of that quote, perhaps, just perhaps, I wouldn't have embarked on writing a book myself. In the early 1990s, I called Jeannie to float an idea that I had for a book that centered around the stories behind rock and roll songs. She shared with me her dream of writing romance novels. Aside from my amazing wife, Gina, and a couple of very good buddies of mine, Jeannie was one of my biggest cheerleaders and advisors on this journey, which took me 28 years to complete from concept to publishing. In those 28 years that I was doing that, what was Jeannie Moon doing? Well, someone at Penguin Publishing, which is now Penguin Random House, and one of the largest publishers in the world, saw amazing potential in Jeannie. And in 2012, after more than a dozen years of building that relationship, Penguin signed Jeannie, even though she hadn't yet completed one of her books. In 6 weeks, Jeannie managed to bang out her first book, The Temporary Wife, which she had already started working on. Her career as an author had taken off. And in a 9-year period, she wrote an amazing 19 books. two of which wound... I still don't know how you did that. Two of which wound up on the USA Today bestsellers list. Folks, I can tell you from personal experience now, writing a book is hard. It's really hard, at least for mere mortals. It's hard. It takes a tremendous amount of time, perseverance, discipline, and patience. It's also not for the faint of heart. Many times, you'll spend a great amount of time writing a chapter, or even just a few paragraphs, and think it's pretty good. Then you wake up the next morning, you reread what you wrote, and you hate just about all of it. But you have to find a way to not be too hard on yourself and soldier on. After all, we're always our own worst critics, aren't we? Soldiering on is another thing that Jeannie does so well. She wrote her 19 books, and I'm hearing number 20 is on the way, all while being a full-time wife, mother of 3, an English teacher for 10 years, and a school librarian for 27 years. While teaching English, she also taught college and AP English literature. She advised the school literary magazine. And oh yeah, she managed to find time to direct musicals at 2 different schools. And now she's also a full-time grandmother. Now. 3 years ago, Jeannie decided she had room on her plate for at least one more project, so she founded 5 Harbors Literary LLC, which provides editorial and business services, author coaching, and classes for libraries and groups. In 2018, Jeannie's novel, Then Came You, won the Bookseller's Best Award for Best Contemporary Romance. Also in 2018, Jeannie was the recipient of the RWA Service Award presented to Romance Writers of America for outstanding service to the romance community. New York Times bestseller author Rayanne Thanes said, "Jeannie Moon is a wonderful storyteller who writes with emotion, humor, and heart. I can't wait to read more." Fellow Times bestseller author Carly Phillips said, "Jeannie Moon always delivers a feel-good, warm your heart, can't stop turning the pages story." On behalf of the WCWP Hall of Fame Committee and our fellow Hall of Famers, it is my distinct privilege and honor to welcome my friend, Jeannie Moon, into the WCWP Hall of Fame class of 2022.
Thank you so much.
There you go. Mike, you want to get it from here? Okay, 1, 2. One, two, three.
This is so pretty. So I do have, those of you who know me well know I can run my mouth better than anybody. So I did write some things down, but it's funny listening to Dan speak and then talking to friends tonight. So many things come running back into your head. And Laurie and I were talking about when we traveled to Pennsylvania, when Post, the Pioneers, made the Division II basketball playoffs. And I did color commentary on the first game against Philadelphia Textile, which doesn't even exist anymore as a school. And I think we had audio issues, like we couldn't get connected with the station, and it was just a mess. But we did it anyway, and we did a good job. Post got knocked out in the first round, but it was a great experience. It was fun, it was different. And looking back on those things, I look back on those interviews I did with the Islanders, and ending up in the press box working for the New York Arrows, and in the press box during Stanley Cup playoffs. I was handing out stats. I mean, let's be real here. But it was amazing, and it was electric, and I count some of those experiences those are like the watershed moments that help you see how every point in your life contributes to who you are. So that's really where I'm jumping off here, because I didn't end up in broadcasting. I worked for about 30 seconds in PR after I graduated. And then I went back to the thing that I wanted to do since I was in high school. And my guidance counselor, everybody said, you'll never get a job. And I became a teacher. I became an English teacher and then a school librarian. And I just want to say that every single thing I did at Post in the radio station contributed to my careers. There is not one skill that I acquired in that radio station that I did not apply. So really what you're gaining here is a toolkit. And I don't think that can be overlooked. And I hope that is the message that I can bring to the administration, to everybody. I know they're investing a lot. I know that the building is beautiful. Thank you. It is absolutely gorgeous. And but I hope they understand that it's not just for kids who want to go work in broadcasting. It's for everybody. And those skills are impossible. And when Dan called me to tell me I was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I was kind of shocked. I was like, what? Like, really? And I was so honored. And then I hung up the phone, and that little voice that you get in your head was, that has to be a mistake. Has to be a mistake. But here's what I learned over the years about that little voice. And it started when I was in college here. And that was that little voice isn't my enemy. That little voice is my challenge. And it's a reminder that I'm pushing myself. It's a reminder that I've reached or am reaching for something bigger. And if I don't hear it, it means that I'm not questioning and I'm not working hard enough. So for those of you who worry about imposter syndrome, I think what you have to remember is that imposters do not get imposter syndrome. So if you are questioning a little bit, you're good. But the station was where I learned to push through those doubts. My writing career is a big reason I'm here tonight. 19 books. Yes, I did do that. Yes, I was exhausted. No, I don't recommend it. But those stories are important to me. And they were important to a lot of people who were able to escape for a little while into the pages of a book where they knew it was going to be okay. But everything I did, my writing, my teaching, my librarianship, is all rooted in the station. I learned how to tell a story. I learned how to keep an audience engaged, how to communicate ideas clearly, skills that helped me as a writer and saved my life in front of a classroom full of teenagers. Like, I can't tell you. They didn't want to be there, so how did I keep them engaged? And it was those skills. I learned how to think on my feet, how to pivot when things didn't go as planned, and more importantly, how to stay calm when everything went completely off the rails like it did in Pennsylvania. And if you think dead air is terrifying, try a group of high school kids who have not read anything you assigned, and an administrator is in the back of the room for an observation. So, more than anything, the station taught me resilience. It taught me that sometimes, no matter how prepared you are, things will go wrong. You'll hit technical difficulties. You'll bomb an interview. You'll freeze up. You'll have to figure it out anyway. It turns out that it's also excellent training for writing, because writing is, in many ways, the art of failing over and over again until you get it right. And my writing, my passion, is all about persistence. I'm a romance author. You heard my stats. And people think writing romance is easy. They think it's predictable, it's formulaic. And you know what? It is. So is a lot of genre fiction. All genre fiction is formulaic. But just because something is formulaic doesn't mean it's unoriginal. It's about meeting expectations. So let's think about that. In sports, we call it consistency. A great athlete delivers again and again. A team plays hard. That's not boring, that's excellence. On the air, we call it reliability. A great host, a great news anchor, a great play-by-play announcer. They deliver clear, compelling experience every single time. All right, listeners and viewers know what to expect, and they trust that experience will be there. In production, I call it structure. Every show has a rundown, every segment has a plan, every transition, every soundbite, every second of air is accounted for. A well-produced show feels effortless. But behind the scenes, it's precise, it's intentional, and if it's done right, the audience never notices the work that went into it. In romance, we call it a promise. The promise that no matter what obstacles the characters face, they will find their way. That love will win, and that despite everything, there is always hope. And people dismiss romance as fluff, as less than, but I'm proud to write books that make people happy. Books that bring joy, books that remind people that love, kindness, and human connection matter, that happy endings aren't just possible, they are worth fighting for. And my years also taught me that stories have power. Whether it's a news broadcast, a sports update, a novel that gives someone an escape from a hard day, storytelling matters. And I am grateful for the ways I honed my craft as a storyteller at a typewriter in that newsroom. It was significant, it was impactful. And I don't think I realized that right away. So, but the station also gave me something else, and it gave me my people. And time and distance has pulled it apart, but some of them were absolute maniacs. They really were, right?
You're looking at me!
Brilliant, chaotic, creative, slightly unhinged sometimes. I love them. They pushed me, they challenged me, they comforted me when I was nervous, cheered for me when I got things right, dragged me back when things had gone wrong and I had to try again. They helped me, the girl with big feelings, cope. They taught me that radio and writing and teaching and life aren't about perfection. They're about showing up, doing the work, and rolling with the unexpected. They were my people. They still are. Like I said, time, distance have created buffers, but I will always claim them as mine. Every single one of them, including her, especially her. The station taught me patience because, trust me, if you can handle an audio disaster while your show is live, you can handle anything. That creative problem solving is a survival skill. That confidence isn't about never being afraid. It's about learning to move forward even when you are. My husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he's back there, when I was on staff, used to stand behind the engineering during sports chatter. We were in a separate studio on Saturday nights just to watch me live on the air. He's still standing behind me, still supporting me. He's brought me dinner at my desk when I'm deep on a deadline more times than I can count, knowing that sometimes the best way to love a writer is to feed them and quietly walk away. And my kids, who have never once made me feel silly for chasing my dreams, who are proud of me in a way that humbles me every single day, have been there the entire time. So thank you to the Hall of Fame committee, to Suzanne, who advocated, to Dan, who made that call, to all the people who supported my nomination. I cannot express my thanks enough for being included in this incredibly talented group of people. I look at the list of people and I feel like I've crashed the line at the VIP section of a club. And they're so impressive. They really are. And for a bit I was like, really? I was like, oh, that's nice. But what I want to say is I want to thank the mentors who taught me everything from storytelling to staying cool under pressure, to the maniacs at the station who shaped me, to my family who have never once let me believe that I was never less than anything but capable to do this. So here's to 60 more years of brilliance, to all the voices still waiting to be discovered, and to the power of stories. Whether they're on the airwaves, in the classroom, on cable, on the internet, or in the pages of a romance novel, the stories always matter. So here's to never giving up. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's all going to come out. It's all going to come out. Hopefully the statute of limitations is, anyway. What I love about tonight is two things. First of all, two extraordinary, capable and beautiful women are going into the Hall of Fame. But the other connection between the two, which I didn't put together, is sports. And I just want to say, take a minute to talk about sports at WCWP. My heart is in programming. I love to program the radio station. I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at this. I love the creative side of this business. And to me, a good college radio station builds all its programming on a foundation of athletics. I've always felt that way. From the days when I first got to there and listened to Fred Gaudelli call football games, to today when I listen to Joe Frescott, my current sports director, call basketball games. To me, it's a foundation that's necessary. It draws in audience, and they know that when they're on the air, every time they take a break, all they're going to play are station promos so people know what else we do on the air. Because that will be the audience that will try something else. So yeah, sports is a huge foundation on which we build programming at WCWP, and just the connection between that tonight is just wonderful, and I'm extraordinarily proud. Plus the fact that, like I said, you're beautiful, sweetie. Don't ever think you're not doing it perfectly every time. All right. Next up, to induct Laurie White is Fred Gaudelli and Dan Reagan.
Before we get started, just want to thank Marjorie for being here tonight, for the generosity and vision of your dad to make this possible, and really to make this night possible. It's so much better that you are here and Cynthia's here and your entire family's here. So thank you very, very much. So it's ladies' night at WCWP, which, you know, as I was thinking about this driving in, obviously back in the early 80s, diversity wasn't a word. And unfortunately, it's become, well, I'll leave it at that. But we had diversity back in the early 80s at WCWP. We had a lot of women who were major contributors as much as the men were. We had a lot of minorities at part of the station. And it's funny, you never really thought about it because all the people there were talented and hardworking and contributed to the success of the station. And that's why we're celebrating 60 years tonight. I had the great fortune to produce John Madden and become his friend for over 20 years. And when we'd drive that bus across the country, we would talk about Hall of Fames and Hall of Famers and who should be a Hall of Famer and what's the definition of a Hall of Famer. And he had a great definition. He said, if you can't write the story of the sport or the league or the endeavor without naming this person, then unquestionably that person is a Hall of Famer. And I just want you to kind of think about that tonight as Dan and I discuss Laurie. In 1980, when Laurie got here, you'd be hard pressed to name more than a couple of women who were doing sports anywhere on television or radio. Phyllis George was back for her second stint at CBS on the NFL Today. ESPN had launched a year earlier. They had a woman named Rhonda Glenn. She was part of SportsCenter. But back in 1980, cable television was in 23% of the homes in America, so not many people were seeing this. But my point is this. there wasn't really a role model for a young woman to look at and say, hey, I can have a career in sports media, let alone a young woman from Hicksville. There wasn't a pipeline for women to make their way into the business. They had to blaze their own path. And that's what helped make Laurie's career at WCWP and then professionally even more impressive. Back in 1980, there wasn't an internet, there wasn't a personal computer, there wasn't a cell phone, which means if you had an interest in sports, you had to mine that interest very, very intentionally. You had to read, you had to watch, you had to listen, and you had to read every single day. You just couldn't hit a search button and get the answers like you can today. It really had to be in your DNA. So when Laurie came to WCWP and expressed an interest in joining the sports department, the question we all had is, how much does she know about sports? And in my recollection, the answer came back quickly. It was more than enough to make us a better department. Laurie was an incessant worker who keenly understood the audience's rapid connection to sports. In her career at WCWP, she was a regular member of the weekly sports discussion show, Sports Chatter, as was Jeannie. She did play-by-play for Pioneer football in 82 and 83, color on basketball in 83 and 84, and she succeeded me and is the only female sports director in the history of WCWP, although I think that's going to change next year, according to Dan Cox. Which goes without saying, it's about time. Upon graduation in 1984, she was named the Benjamin Abrams Award winner, which went to the student whose dedication and performance advanced the work and the reputation of WCWP. Back then, it was easy to forget that Laurie was a woman overcoming some substantial odds because she exuded excellence in everything she did and made our team better. And at the end of the day, that's all that any team cares about, to have a teammate that's going to make you better. Now, however, it would be naive and really off point on so many levels not to acknowledge what she accomplished as a woman, and perhaps more importantly, the number of women she's influenced throughout her college and professional career. So Laurie, congratulations. And now for the rest of the story, Dan.
Thank you, Fred. So after trailblazing a path for women at WCWP, Laurie's first job after graduation was at Sports Channel, where I also happened to have landed. I was glad to get another chance to work with her since I only had a very brief opportunity in my senior year here at CW Post at the time. At Sports Channel, Laurie worked in the promotions department and on live events. However, Laurie's stay at Sports Channel lasted just 1 year, as she left to join Reed Dolph Incorporated, where she became a feature producer, working for 5 years on Inside the PGA Tour. Now, I'll get back to Laurie's work with the PGA in a moment, but I want to add to what Fred just said about how rare women working in sports broadcasting was in the 1980s and 90s. It might be hard to envision with our 2025 eyes when women have very prominent roles in both news and sports. But that was not the case at all when she started out. Fred mentioned some prominent women who had roles in front of the camera. In a sports television broadcast, the people working on an event on site behind the scenes are divided into two areas. The technical crew, which are the people working the equipment, and the production side, which is comprised of the producer, director, associate director, and associate producer. In the 80s and 90s, and even a good part of the 2000s, usually the only women who worked inside the truck were the women assigned to type up the graphics that you see on your screen. I can count on one hand the number of women who were in the front row of the truck, either in the producer or director seat, in those decades. A woman named Sue Stratton was calling the shots on the Los Angeles Lakers games. My good friend Lisa Seltzer was directing the Chicago Blackhawks at a very young age, and I worked with Ellen Rubinoff at Sports Channel Ellen produced some pregame shows and Mets broadcasts. This is pretty much the world that Laurie White entered into in the mid-'80s. But it didn't take long for Laurie to distinguish herself as a very hardworking, knowledgeable, and talented writer, producer, and director. In her career that has spanned 4+ decades, Laurie has worked for almost every major network, working 9 Olympics, 3 Super Bowls, Triple Crown horse racing events, World Figure Skating Championships, and college football events. She's taken home 8 Emmy Awards. Few men, not named Fred Gaudelli, let alone women, can claim these distinctions working behind the camera at these major sporting events. Now, I mentioned earlier that Laurie worked with the PGA Tour, helping to produce Inside the PGA Tour, a weekly ESPN golf anthology. Laurie also produced and/or directed 3 long-form documentaries on golf. They are On the Brink, a 90-minute program on the rigors of the PGA Tour qualifying tournament, 100 Years of the U.S. Open, and lastly, The Story of Golf. All of them are outstanding, especially if you love the game of golf as I do. Now, there's a saying in show business that says, leave them wanting more. After I watched the documentary, The Story of Golf, I scrolled down to read some of the comments left by others who had viewed it. Here's just a sampling. Started golfing in 1959. I have enjoyed it my whole life. This is a great program. All golfers should watch it. Next one. Second time watching this. Best golf documentary I've ever seen, and I've seen a few. Next one. Excellent viewing. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Does justice to the history and the ethics of the greatest challenge of any sporting endeavor. And lastly, my favorite, I did not want this documentary to end. Bravo, Laurie. You left them wanting more. You and I shared a year together here at WCWP and a year at Sports Channel. We've also worked at NBC, but not at the same time. But of all the places we've been, I'm happiest that we have wound up together here at this place at this time. So on behalf of the WCWP Hall of Fame Committee and your fellow Hall of Famers, I want to welcome you into the WCWP Hall of Fame Class of 2024. Congratulations.
Well, obviously this is a very special night, but one reason it's extra special is because it's not every night that you get to have your picture taken with 2 of your heroes, and that's just what happened. Thank you guys for your very, very kind words. First, I'd like to just start by thanking the Abrams family. You know, I've twice had my name associated with Benjamin Abrams, and I cannot tell you how proud I am to have that happen. And the generosity of Benjamin and of the family have provided so many opportunities for students like me to go ahead and pursue their dreams. So thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Congratulations, Jeannie Moon. I cannot possibly begin to express how happy I am to be sharing this night with you. We spent so much time together at the station. So much time, yes. And so many good times, actually. And, you know, I'm not at all surprised by your success as both a teacher and an author. I'm very, very happy for you. But the thing I'm happiest about is the fact that after all these years, we've reconnected as friends. And again, congratulations to you. listen, I'd like to just share some stories of my time at WCWP. And before I jump onto the Wayback Machine, and you have to bear with me because I'm still having difficulty coping with the idea that it was 40 years or more ago. But before I hop on the Wayback Machine, let me just start a few years ago. It's late one night, I'm bored, I'm home, I'm surfing the internet, and I stumble upon a post by Suzanne Langwell. And she had just been inducted into the Hall of Fame and was incredibly proud of it. And it was such a sweet post, and I was so very happy for her. And then I said to myself, what is the WCWP Hall of Fame? Honestly, I'd never heard of it. But I said, what is it, and why am I not in it? So, I huffed and I puffed for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes only. Then I stumbled upon Fred's induction ceremony, where he was gracious enough to mention me and what a nice career I'd had. And that's when the light bulb flashed on. That's when, kind of an epiphany of sense, I said to myself, Laurie, how dumb can you be? And frankly, it was an easy question to answer, pretty dumb sometimes. But it was at that moment I realized that I didn't owe anyone, or no one owed me anything. And furthermore, I owed an incredible debt of gratitude to WCWP. Frankly, pretty much my whole career, I would say. And I tell you, it's starting there. It was just amazing. But that was a huge moment for me, and that's why another reason why this evening makes me so proud. So, jumping back now on the Wayback Machine, let me take you back to the first day I ever walked into the station. It was one of those beautiful, crisp autumn Long Island days, and this frightened freshman walked into the station, and the first person I met was Mrs. G. So I said to myself, maybe this won't be so daunting after all. Then I met Bill Moser. And the intimidation factor just ratcheted up exponentially. But I am so glad and so happy that I got a chance to work with Bill. I learned so much from him, and I watched him run the station in a very professional manner, and it was just a great experience. And oddly enough, as the years went on, he became less and less scary. So I joined the sports department, and my freshman year, Dan was sports director, and as I remember, the department was huge. There had to be 15 people there, at least. So every week we'd have these meetings, and everyone would critique everyone's performance, their on-air performance. And of course, being a rookie, wasn't on air yet. I had to earn my way, and I had to cut demo reels to earn my way on air. But in those meetings, I learned probably the most important question that I asked throughout my career, and that was, how can I be better? What can I do to improve my performance? And I remember asking Dan that question one time, and he told me I had to work on my Long Island accent. Now, I must have looked at Dan like he had three heads, because first off, I had no idea what a Long Island accent was. I didn't know I had one, and it was quite honestly just the way I spoke. But those were fun times. And if nothing else, this evening has given me the opportunity to kind of look back on my career. It's kind of forced me to do that. And I can tell you one thing: I've had a lot of fun. I really have. But when I think about fun, I think back to my freshman year on the sports department and Saturday afternoons post-Pioneer football. It was just great. There was a buzz in the building. And listen, my job wasn't very big or important. I was basically just sitting in that old tiny newsroom by that old ticker tape machine, which some of you might remember, and just getting the scores as they came across for the other college games across the states. And I would report the scores to the people broadcasting the halftime shows and the post-game shows. But let me tell you, there's something about being part of that team. It was just so much fun. And by the time that post-game show ended on one Saturday, I could not wait for the next Saturday to come around. It was just awesome. So my sophomore year, Dan graduates. Fred takes over as the sports director. And somehow I made it on the air. And as has been mentioned a few moments ago, Sports Chatter was the big show, and it's a show that everyone aspired to be on. And I'll never forget my first time on the show, because it was a doozy. I was nervous, I'm sure. And basically, Sports Chatter was a 60-minute roundtable talk show talking about all the sports issues of the day. So here's how it goes. Fred starts off as the host with some sort of topic. Two other people, I wish I could remember who they were, but I just don't, comment. And then being the rookie, it comes around to me. Well, everything that I was planning on saying had already been said. So I kind of just looked at Fred and shrugged. Okay, on to topic number 2. Unfortunately, the same results. Fred starts, it was great. The other 2 people, great. Comes around to me, well, everything had already been said. So again, I looked at Fred, and I kind of just shrugged. Well, that's when I received what I've lovingly come to call the Gaudelli glare. He looked at me as if to say, you know, if you want to do this, you got to be prepared. You got to think on your feet. And in all fairness, I'm just having a lot of fun with Fred, but about that glare. But he was absolutely right, and it was a great learning experience. Just a great learning experience. Here's the thing about Dan and Fred. They set the bar high. They demanded excellence. And over the years, I came to realize that it's easy to demand excellence when you deliver excellence. And that's something that they both did day in and day out. So now, being a member of the sports department, there were a few perks. Being a baseball fan, we got tickets every summer, not tickets, passes every summer, to a Met game once a month where we'd have the opportunity to go on the field and interview players. And it was great. I remember at Yankee Stadium, I'm a Mets fan, but I'll tell a Yankee story. Yankee Stadium, every time I'd go on the field, Dave Winfield would walk by me. Now, Dave Winfield was a 6'6" Hall of Fame outfielder for the Yankees. And every single time, I didn't know the guy, but every single time he'd say the same thing to me. Hey, how's the weather down there? So we both had a chuckle about that. But it was a time at Shea Stadium that I really do cherish as a great memory. I'm on the field, waiting to interview players, probably waiting to muster up the courage to interview players. And I look over in the dugout, and I do a big double take. Because who do I see walking out of that dugout with then manager George Bamberger, chatting like they're old friends, best buddies, none other than Dan Reagan. He had just started his career at Sports Channel, and I'm like, hey, that's Danny. I mean, look at him, wow. You know, not that long ago, he was doing what I'm doing now, and now look at him. Let me tell you, it made a big impression. As did Mr. Gaudelli when he started at ESPN. And this is a story that many of you probably have heard before, but I especially love. When Fred started at ESPN, he started in the mailroom. But he didn't stay there very, very long. With immense talent and amazing determination, he rocketed right up the ladder at ESPN and at other networks to become, in my not so humble opinion, the finest live sports television producer, past, present, or future. Period, exclamation point, end of story. Let's see. Here's the thing about that, and it's tied back to WCWP. What they showed me, and I know other people had showed them, but what they showed me was the possibilities. And the fact that if I worked hard and maybe followed a little bit in their footsteps, things would really turn out just fine. And really, to me, that was the essence of WCWP. You know, we didn't compete against each other. We cheered each other on. We were helping each other. And it was just an amazing atmosphere. And I hope that spirit exists today. And I really do think it does because of Dan's fine leadership. So, just to wrap things up, things have worked out pretty good for me. I have no complaints. My job has literally taken me around the world to places that I could only have before dreamed about seeing. I've worked with legendary broadcasters. As Dan mentioned, I've worked pretty much every major sporting event there is. I've had the opportunity to tell stories about some of the greatest athletes in the world and some very, very ordinary people who have just done extraordinary things. And the thing I'm happiest about probably is the fact that I have had the opportunity to work with some of the most talented people in television production. And some of them are here tonight. Anne, Gail, Peter, thank you for sharing this evening with me. Thank you for sharing this evening with me and my wonderful sisters Melissa and Pam and my brother-in-law Bert. So that's my story, as the saying goes, and I'm sticking to it. You know, and the thing that I'll take away from this is that everything I kind of just described, it just doesn't happen if that frightened freshman doesn't walk into the building at WCWP. And that's the influence that the station really had on me. So, you know, tonight I can only tell you that I feel deeply, deeply grateful and incredibly blessed. Thank you very much.
I'll get it.
Oh, it's the box.
Yeah, that's so you can take it home, you know, and not get it scratched. Listen, if somebody could grab me a bourbon neat, I'd be very happy. Janine, could you do that for me? I mean, I know you're my former secretary, but it'd be nice if you got me a bourbon neat. Thank you. For after I finish, I'm not going to do it now, and I'll start sobbing through this. Our next inductee. We're here because of him. We're all here because of him and the incredible generosity of his family. An extraordinary man. I'm not going to go into the history because I know Cynthia knows it better than anybody. What I learned when I first got to WCWP is who's this guy's portrait in the lobby and why is he staring at me wherever I go? Okay? That portrait is neatly packed in a basement right now in the library. Climate controlled, no problem. Took lots of photographs of it. But I said, who is that? And I said, well, that's Benjamin Abrams. I said, okay. They said, no, man. He ran the Emerson Radio Company. And I said, so then I had to go to the library, and because there were no computers, no internet, and find out who this man was. And he was an extraordinary human being. And I'm going to let you guys talk about him. So next into the Hall of Fame is this incredible human being, Benjamin Abrams, and I want to bring up Cynthia and Marjorie to talk about him.
Okay. Well, I heard some wonderful stories tonight, and I think I can match them in a way, talking about my father. It's a true American story. And I know just as much about him as Cynthia because I was there first. So this is the story of my father, Benjamin Abrams, born August 18th, 1893, and died June 23rd, 1967. A dash separates those dates. And it is in that dash that the remarkable story of my father's life can be told. Tonight, on this significant occasion, I'll do my best to tell it. Born in Durahoy, Romania, in a house with a leaky roof, he shared its 2 rooms with his parents, 6 siblings, and 2 goats. His bed was a small shelf above the wood-burning stove. And there, warmed by the embers of the evening meal, young Benjamin dreamed of a better life in a faraway land, for survival was the order of the day. State-authorized anti-Semitism subjected the Jewish population to the horrors of brutality, vilification, and pogroms. He was 8 years old when his beloved father and protector died, and it was then decided the time had come to leave Romania. but it took time. He was 12 when their ship sailed into New York and had his first glimpse of Our Lady of the Harbor with her welcoming head torch held high. Though life in the new land would be difficult, he knew he had arrived the land of his dreams. 1 year in the 8th grade in a language he didn't know began and ended his formal education. For at 13, now man of the family, he went to work to pay the rent and put food on the table. He was hardworking and successful in all his endeavors as delivery boy, selling magazine subscriptions, tuning pianos, whatever was available. It was his innate ability to listen and learn from everyone he encountered, be they prince, pauper, the man on the street, or his best teacher, that miracle of the ether, the radio. Though no diplomas from elementary, high school, or college hung on his wall, he was Phi Beta Kappa, summa cum laude, in gratitude, humility, grace, compassion, and love of God, family, and the United States of America. His work ethic was such that still in his 20s, he, along with a fellow employee, was able to buy the Emerson Record and Phonograph Company from their employer, Victor Hugo Emerson. However, they went their separate ways as his partner wished to produce records only, and he, of course, wanted to manufacture radios, the product which had enriched and enlivened his overworked life with culture and education. It worked out well for both, especially my father, as he had the good fortune to meet and marry our mother, Elizabeth Sargoy, better known as Biddy, the love of his life and partner in all his endeavors. I was born in 1927, just in time to herald in the Great Depression of 1929. People lost their savings, their jobs, and breadlines became a common sight. My father, also deeply affected, as little was left of his meager resources, still believed he could be of help, not only to his family, but his fellow man as well. But how? His can-do spirit felt the answer lay in his beloved radios, but their tombstone size and high costs really ruled them out. But not one to give up easily, with that positive spirit and his own vision, he had that hallelujah moment, and the Pee-wee was born, an 8.5-inch affordable miracle of entertainment, uplifting the lives of the depressed with just what they needed, the glorious sounds of Caruso's voice, the music of Irving Berlin, comedic skits, and the educational and informative news of the day. He was right. The little Pee-wee was a success, and Emerson soon became known as the world's largest manufacturer of small radios. It was then the name of Benjamin Abrams became synonymous with Emerson Radio. His continuing innovations in the field brought him further recognition and success, so much so that he was named one of the most significant people in the field of consumer electronics. His name on the program, admittedly in alphabetical order, preceded those of Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Alva Edison. His success was shared not only with his immediate family, but anyone else who needed or wanted a job, including, this is a little shout out to Gilbert and Sullivan, their sisters and their brothers and their cousins by the dozens and their aunts. What some may have lacked in ability, they made up for in loyalty, except for Aunt Frances's husband, who became the union leader and called a strike. His vision extended to other areas, most especially his concern for his people. Anti-Semitism, always a problem, was now sweeping Europe, courtesy of the maniacal Adolf Hitler. through no fault of their own, like tortured animals, the Jewish people became prey to the most ruthless hunter-killers the world has ever seen. Our father's dear friend James MacDonald, then High Commissioner for Refugees at the League of Nations, would discuss his frustration at making the world aware, imploring Pope Pius Andre Bevin, and being fluent in German, even the Führer Hitler himself, to then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who finally granted $10,000 to this dire cause. Frustrated, he left his position at the League of Nations. As a child, I often sat in on their conversations when I had no playmate, and listened and learned at my father's feet. Later, I remember evenings gathered around the radio as President Roosevelt delivered his fireside chats to millions of Americans on their Emerson radios, of course, explaining his political positions on national and European affairs and the possibility and then reality of World War II. Our home became a welcoming haven for our father's European relatives, especially the children. We doubled and tripled up sleeping arrangements to accommodate them, and bath times as well. Simultaneously, it was a gathering place for people willing to give of their work, wisdom, and wealth to aid in the war effort and many other worthy causes. The Japanese had gotten a jump on us with television, but we soon caught up, and I recall our TV set was prominently displayed in the foyer of our New York City apartment. The only program that existed at the time, as I remember, was The Voice of America, with Lowell Thomas reporting the news. My parents would pull up 2 comfortable chairs for themselves and the piano bench for Jerry and me. We listened and watched spellbound every night before dinner. And Benjamin Abrams then became the leading voice and grantor for educational television and was acclaimed to be one of the finest examples of public service in our time. Our entry into the war, starting in 1941, caused concern to many as their young sons went marching off to war. However, the red, white, and blue flag-designed Patriot radio reflected the mood of the people, inspiring pride and loyalty. Decades later, the New York Times declared the merry little Emerson Patriot to be the icon of the 20th century exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. During the war years, Emerson developed its production at its laboratories and factories. They developed it to the military, developing equipment for submarine warfare, airborne and ground communication and receiving devices, walkie-talkies, pocket-sized receivers for armored vehicles, and the list goes on. Every branch of the military and government honored him during and at war's end, including President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as he sent not only his son Elliot, whom I met on several occasions at our home, but as I later learned from James, the sole surviving son at the time, all 4 Roosevelt sons worked for and were trained in the art of listening, learning, and creating that which was yet to be created from a master. The war ended in 1945, bringing mixed feelings, joy and relief that it had finally ended, but was shocked at the number, condition, and what we saw and learned of the abusive treatment of the Holocaust survivors and its 6 million victims. It was the only time I saw my father cry. Our joy was due to the long-awaited birth of Cynthia at war's end, which heralded in a brighter future than had mine. Though he had climbed and reached the peak of the highest mountain, there were still others to climb. When Israel was granted statehood, James MacDonald was named its first ambassador, and my parents were on the next plane with a mission to fulfill: to help make Israel a safe haven for those broken souls he and our mother never forgot. At their first meeting with Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, they discussed the economic future of Israel, and then it was decided to launch the sale of Israel bonds, the project Golda Meir had earlier proposed at a meeting in our New York apartment. Our father was appointed chairman of the Greater New York area, which represented the largest Jewish population in America. The goal for the first sale was set at $50 million, but was dwarfed by figures that reached multiples of that mark, a sum that was beyond belief in 1951. In appreciation of his work for an affiliation with the Hebrew University, the rotunda at the Martin Buber School of Philosophy was named in his memory, actually. The burgeoning field of electronics inspired him to build the most modern laboratory, rivaling those at MIT, Harvard, Oxford, and Princeton, at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Rehoboth, Israel. It was and still is world-class, and a contributing factor to the Institute, producing 6 Nobel laureates and 3 Turing Prize winners. Years passed, and though he had reached the peak of other mountains, there was still more work to do. He felt honored when Chancellor Gordon Hoxsey invited him to become a trustee at Long Island University, where he found a second home on the Meriwether campus at CW Post. Learning that the university was having difficulty raising funds for a radio station, as you can guess, he stepped up to the plate and brought to fruition a beautiful communication facility for the students in which to learn, experience the mystery of the ether, and the art of responsible radio and television broadcasting. Many graduates of the program have gone on to the successful careers of those in related fields, as have the 2 alums, Jeannie Moon and Laurie White, who, along with our father, are being honored today. And then he died. Under a series of different managements, the Emerson name has unfortunately lost its luster. But there's so much more to tell. But a glance at my watch tells me it's time to wrap up, as I've been told that breakfast is not scheduled. Okay. Tonight, as we proudly celebrate Benjamin Abrams' induction into the Hall of Fame from the university he served, treasured, and loved, and especially this Meriwether campus at CW Post, I'm grateful that he lived long enough to see his state-of-the-art communication center completed and fully operational, and proud that along with my sister Jerry on this, the 60th anniversary of its founding, we have completed the total renovation from top to bottom, inside and out, to the highest degree of modernization. We could never have accomplished this massive undertaking without his inspiration and the able assistance, cooperation, time, and friendship of President Kimberly Klein, Kerry Kruckel, Deirdre Whitman, and Joan Yonke and Dan Cox, who deserve medals for putting up with me as I bombarded them with questions and ideas on a daily basis, including weekends. If you haven't seen the Communication Center, by all means, take a look. My sister Cynthia has special plans still in the works to add the jewel to the crown to the Benjamin Abrams name. So stand by, there's more to come. And this is my salute to our father on his induction into the Hall of Fame. Benjamin Abrams, born August 18, 1893, died June 23, 1967. In the dash which separates those dates, you have shown us the way.
Do you want this or do you want to stand? Do you want the seat or do you want to stand?
I can stand. I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, well, that was a hard act to follow, and I won't say I'll let you go earlier tonight. I'm not going to take too long, but I have to say I'm a little bit psychic, and I'm hearing a voice from above saying, don't say another word until you congratulate Laurie White and Jeannie Moon, and tell them I am so honored to be on the same podium with them and receiving this award tonight. I mean, my father, I know, would be so thrilled to be honored with you two ladies. They were so impressive. And for me, it's such an honor for me to accept this award on behalf of my father, Benjamin Abrams. I don't even know how to say it, but my dad was always a superstar in my life. He was the greatest man I ever knew, and the person I ran to when I was afraid, the person I went to when I needed reassurance, person I went to when I needed a hug. He was just always there for me. And it wasn't just me. My father had a gift of being able to focus on whoever he was with and make them feel like they were the greatest person on earth. He was just the center of our family. We all adored him. My sister spoke of his stellar career and his philanthropic endeavors, which were very, very amazing. He left a legacy to the world. But I would say that what really stands out with my father was that he did not do any of this for personal recognition, for greater wealth, for any self-esteem. He did it because he was a true empath. He felt the needs of other people. He loved people. If he wanted to help people, and he genuinely felt that. He was very, very, very selfless. And everyone responded to him for that. I guess his main concerns was Israel and the Jewish people. It was after World War II, they were in dire straits, and this is where he probably focused most of his philanthropy for a while, and then there were other things too. But with all his philanthropy, with all his family who were always around, he ran a huge electronics company, but he always had time for each and every one of us. My dad spoke to everyone in the family every day. I don't think there was a day in my life, even on my honeymoon, that I did not speak to my father. It was amazing. He just always found the time. He'd be in the office. He could be in the middle of any kind of a deal. You could call him up. He took your call. And this was not just me. This was my sisters. This was my mother. This was my aunts, my uncles, his grandchildren, everyone. He always had time for us, and we never hesitated to call him and bother him and ask him and whatever. And he was just always there. And it's funny. I would have done anything for my father if he ever asked. He never asked for anything from any of us. He just gave, and we took it, and we adored him for it. What I really want to say is this has been an incredible evening. Seeing the center, seeing everybody there who's alumni, they've come back, they support it, they love it, and I think my father would have been so excited to see this, to see how this has developed and evolved into a first-class media and education and news station with an outreach across all the airwaves. And I know for a fact he would be so fascinated by your involvement with your internet station.
and its worldwide outreach. The internet was something that he had never envisioned, I don't think. But I mean, it hadn't come about for years after he died, but maybe in some ways he did envision it. Ben Abrams was, I guess you would call him a true visionary. He dreamt of things never dreamt before. He had such imagination, and you know, I even remember as a child, in the mornings, after I had breakfast, I always had breakfast with my dad, and then we would read the funny papers. We would read, what do we read? Dick Tracy, and he was so, into it, and it's so funny. I mean, this was a very serious man. I mean, he read he knew everything in the news, he knew worldwide leaders and everything, but he would sit with me and we would read Dick Tracy, we would read Brenda Starr, we would read all these silly little things that I liked, but he was intrigued with Dick Tracy, and I think Dick Tracy had a watch, like a two-way wristwatch, and I mean, totally intrigued my dad, and I mean, God, I don't think he could have ever imagined what Apple would do, with the watch. I mean, there it is. There it was, right in Dick Tracy, and maybe that's where they got their idea for it. But anyway, he was a true visionary, and besides that, he was one of the first people to become involved with educational television. In 1952, he gave $100,000 to 10 different educational TV outlets. And I remember, I don't know how old I was, I guess in 1952, whatever I was, and it was before he had given the money. He was still thinking about it. He was talking to, I can't remember the name of the man that he was talking to about it, but he was telling me, we were taking a walk down our street. I used to spend a lot of time taking walks with my dad, and he was telling me how wonderful it would be if teachers could teach, one teacher could teach millions of kids over the airwaves. And he said it's such an amazing thing for these children who live in impoverished areas, who don't have access to good schools, even to adults who need to further their education. He said a TV in a classroom would make a world of difference. So it was a beautiful dream, and it became really a reality with the internet. I mean, now, colleges teach over the internet. But he was quite a man. But I know today he would really be so thrilled to receive this beautiful award, and he would be the one to say thank you to Long Island University, to the administration, to the alumni committee, to Dan Cox, for sure, and mostly to the students who worked so hard to make this center come alive. And I just thank you so much on his behalf. And in his blessed memory, I thank you for honoring my darling, loving father. Thank you.
Are we doing this? Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Very good.
Okay. If you've been to these before, you know I usually make a comment at the end, and it's that time. I think about these a lot, these thoughts that I share with you at the end of these events. But this one I really thought out. I did a Jeannie Moon. I wrote it down. Because it means a lot to me what's happening here tonight, as I've stated before. Lovely people, incredible history that this station has had. So here are my feelings to end the evening. 60 years. To physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, 60 years is barely a blip on the cosmic calendar. To me, and to many of you, probably all of you, 60 years is a long time, especially for an idea. From the 1920s to the 1960s, AM radio was king. It ruled the airwaves with news, sports, drama, comedy, and music. In President Kennedy's inaugural address, he said, "The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans, born in a century tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights which this nation has been committed." It was an intrepid group of pioneers in the 1960s who gave birth to the FM movement, and I call it a movement. I include WCWP Hall of Famers Art Beltrone and Hank Neimark among those pioneers. Young people who wanted an outlet for their creativity and their voice. That speech by President Kennedy inspired a generation of college students to encourage their colleges and universities to invest in FM radio. Do the statistics, most FM radio stations at colleges were started in the 1960s. An idea that would evolve into a powerful and important medium. This new generation would use FM radio for good, to expose the public to music that was not heard on AM radio, to report issues that affected a nation. A generation who knew that radio was powerful. This new generation of broadcasters would use that social interaction with the audience to speak out against injustice and to help stop a war. Radio's power has evolved. Young people have always been the catalyst. Teenagers today experience bullying, depression, anxiety, and loneliness. These conditions can be identified, and help is available to them. Those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s owe a debt to the FM pioneers of the 1960s. We suffered from these same conditions, many of us, but we did not have the support that's available today. Those of us who suffered from these afflictions had limited places to turn. Radio was our escape. An AM disc jockey at WABC, and then, I'm going to have trouble getting through this one, all the FM jocks who would play the music I loved and spoke to me as if I was the only person listening. As a teenager, FM radio and music saved my life more than once. My colleague at WRHU, and I thought he was going to be here tonight, John Mullen says, and I agree with him, and it's now on my email, if you get an email from me, radio is our first electronic social media. And that is true. As the audience then, we friended the FM personalities. We posted on their timeline every time we listened to them, or if we called the station. They posted on our timeline every time they spoke of things that mattered to us. The power of radio, and I am a biased person, and I'm going to admit it, especially college radio, still has the ability to help those who don't feel comfortable on the air, and especially at college radio stations. I've called college radio stations a magnet for misfits, because I am one. WCWP and college stations around the country are safe spaces where students can express themselves without judgment, feel comfortable with their peers, learn how to communicate, and develop friendships that last a lifetime. Just going to sidetrack here. There are a lot of marriages that have come out of WCWP. There's one right there. Peter, where are you? Where's Pete? Pete just got engaged. There's another one. Samantha couldn't be here tonight. She's actually working in radio in Florida, is she not? Yes, she is. College radio is more than a place to create content. It's a place to grow as a person. A place where diversity, equity, and inclusion is organic, not forced. WCWP is expanding to include students from Rock Nation School Sports Media Program in Brooklyn because we are one university, Long Island University. Support of college radio has waned on many campuses across the country in the past 10 years. I am proud to be part of a university who has shown extraordinary support for the greatest asset it has, WCWP radio. WCWP has and always will be the coolest place on campus. Thank you. So where's my bourbon? Thank you and have a good night. Eat, drink, be merry, and
Thank you, Jeff.
thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
The end.